And we are officially in the second half of the Overwatch League.
Saya over the top.
Oh my God.
With a huge stick from Sabiomi. Takes down 3.
Okay, now I've seen everything. Oh, the stick under production. What a way to kick off stage 3 of the Overwatch League, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be back.
Welcome to MLG's Watchpoint. Mr. X here with Monty and Uber, and a ton to get to today. But before we do, we want to address the reports involving the Boston Uprising streamcaster.
That's right, Mr. X. In the wake of several reports on Sunday, the league tweeted earlier today the Overwatch League was made aware of the allegations against Jonathan Dreamcasper Sanchez. He is suspended indefinitely while the league investigates this matter.
Yes, and Monday, the Boston Uprising made this announcement via Twitter. The Boston Uprising has terminated the contract of Jonathan Dreamcasper Sanchez.
And while the investigation continues, we're going to stick to the action inside the Overwatch League. And there was a ton of it, at least, to start off Stage 3. Here are some of the biggest stories from Week 1 in 90 seconds.
The week kicked off with the debut of a brand new Shanghai roster. But the acquisitions of Geggery and company couldn't reverse their fortunes as they still search for their elusive first win. The Valiant's new cast, however, paid immediate dividends, as the additions of Space and Custer led to a massive 4-0 upset over Seoul and clean sweep of Shanghai later in the week. The Gladiators trade for Silk Thread couldn't stop the surge from the Shock's new young guns.
And the Shock, you better believe it, get around them.
As Sinatra and Super led San Francisco to a 3-1 win on Wednesday, but the Shock met their match on Friday, falling to the Dynasty 4-0. Houston continued to be London's kryptonite, as a tense 3-2 victory has the Outlaws 3-0 versus the Spitfire in the regular season.
Talk about kryptonite. I smell a rivalry here.
Philadelphia looked to continue making noise after their strong Stage 2.
There he is! The one and only! The Swedish Rocky! If that doesn't make you happy, I don't know what will.
But got off to a rocky start against maybe the week's most impressive team in the Boston Uprising, who defeated the Fusion before 4-0ing the Houston Outlaws on Saturday behind resurgent play from Striker and Gamsu.
Here come the reinforcements, straight on top.
And for the NYXL, what was old is new again, as the return of Pine and Mercy-heavy compositions led to another outstanding week without dropping a map, accentuated by their dominant 4-0 win over the Spitfire, who begin Stage 3 0-2.
Let's peek at the season standings. New York, London, Seoul, still your top 3 teams. Some interesting movement within the next group, though. You have 4 teams within 1 match of each other. And the Valiant have the best differential of that group after an 8-0 week. Thought the Valiant looked amazing this week. I think a big reason why were the additions of Space and Custa. Space, obviously, in that off-tank role. Such a smart player. I think both of these guys are just really calculated. They're really deep thinkers about the game, which I feel like is something that the Valiant needed in those roles.
Yeah, look, and I've got to say, we've talked a little bit about Custer coming into this team, but Space was definitely, for me, one of the most exciting new prospects coming into this roster. Young player, just turning 18. And now, of course, he's in a position where, he gives leadership input to the team. There's shot calling going on. This guy has been around for a while. He played on the previous Cloud9 team in Contenders before, obviously, they made the merger with Kongdu. Before that, on a team called Yikes or Arc 6. So the guy's got tons of experience. But look at these numbers. First in eliminations per 10 for D.Va, first in final blows, first for deaths in terms of least deaths. So, I mean, this guy comes out. Oh, yes, he's only played 2 series. Yes, they were dominant. But hey, he's looking very, very good as he's hit the ground running.
And yes, they were playing against the weaker version of the
Fusion
dance
yeah.
right here. We haven't seen the Fusion do the Fusion dance yet, though, which is disappointing to me. I feel that's some low-hanging fruit.
If they don't want to do the dance, they can just have the earrings on, right? Like one wears one earring, they have the guitar
I have no clue what they're even talking about.
I believe you. Anyway, thanks for sidetracking me, though. But all of the stats from the Valiant are going to be inflated.
Right.
They were playing against the weaker version of the Seoul Dynasty and the Shanghai Dragons. So they're going to have good stats.
Hey, now we get to use stats out of context to make people look good instead of bad, and that's great, right?
There we go.
I would like to, outside of stats, talk about how we know they've gotten better, which is in terms of their coordination as a team. The Valiant were really characterized by their overtime pushes. They often had trouble coordinating their ultimates or formulating plans for pushes unless they all in and used their individual abilities to sort of brute force their opponent when it was almost game over. Now, we're not seeing that anymore. I talked to Custa for a couple of hours this week, and in my discussions with him, he was praising the coaching staff and the structure that they wanted, so he knew exactly how he was going to slot into this team from day one, and they haven't mixed up the roster yet either. We've been seeing the same 6 players, even though they've signed many, many more players right now, so they're really forming that foundation before they start to experiment, I think, with some of their flexibility.
Something a lot of teams didn't do in stage 1.
I also think Custa leaving the Fuel probably gives them a little bit more confidence, right? Going into a little bit more of a stable situation. He's going to play better in that environment. And then I think you have a guy like Space who comes in, who's a great leader, you know, coming in for Envy, who is their former off-tank. I think they just bring 2 completely different things, where Fate's like very aggressive. Space now will be able to just make decisions on the fly, whether to follow Fate, whether he knows that's the right play, or appeal for the back line. I think they're only going to get better.
I agree with you, but at the same time, there were some issues when we look at this team because it was hard to tell how good they are, because we can't talk about the Valiant without mentioning how bad Seoul looked in their losses to Los Angeles. They used a new lineup with Gambler and Guido on support instead of Toby and Jaehong, but it was the tanks that stood out to me as the biggest weak spot for the Dynasty, and we do see this reflected in some of the statistics from this team. You know, Miro coming in against Fate, and we go and take a look at these stats. Miro now way down in terms of eliminations per 10 minutes, final blows, and deaths, which we expect in a 4-0 sweep. So that's not really the surprise,
Miro
right?
is losing that series heavily, so we can expect to see some sort of slant on the stats.
It's just interesting to see how much more active Fate is, though. Like, being able to just put down so many eliminations, just like kill contributions, that's insane.
Yeah, absolutely, and Fate has been playing well. But the thing about Miro here is we can also compare him to other tanks in losses. So if you look at the league average
of Winston's here, yeah.
of Winston's versus the Valiant, his versus the Valiant versus everybody else in those losses, you still see that there is an underperformance here. So even if we compare him to other tanks who haven't been succeeding in terms of their team play or their map wins, there's still a slide there, and that has to be remedied.
I actually wouldn't say that they necessarily played their B team against the Valiant. I think they were just trying something out, because I think they may think, I think Seoul may be going like so deep like into like what's wrong that like there may not be nothing wrong, or they may think there is actually something wrong. But I know teams that are able to pressure Flutter out have had great success against Seoul Dynasty, because they're not really scared of anybody else. They're not really scared of Miro going into the back line or Munchkin, or there's not really much of a fear of, you know, going back and challenging Jaehong in that one-on-one like a Jonak or Badosin, right? So I think teams have realized if they can isolate Fleta and put pressure on Fleta, make his life hard, they can beat this team.
Have you seen how many clips of that as well? What we just saw from Fleta of him trying to get stuff done on his own there as well, in one-on-ones against Zenyatta's and you know and such like that. So great player, incredible individual, but if his team's not gelling around him, we see it happen all the time with top players that just don't get the job done if they don't have the backup. But another team who looks to be on the rise behind some new faces is the San Francisco Shock. The Shock began stage 3 with an impressive 3-1 win over the Los Angeles Gladiators, behind some strong play from Super, Sinatra, and Moth. And I've got to say, the former of those 3, Super, we've been waiting for his debut. Young kid, super intelligent, very, very bright, great leader, has a good understanding of how the game should be played and is good in introspection. Really mature guy, and it carries over. Now they have this extra aggression, this lethal edge in their front line to join a player like Sinatra. So, I mean, I'm impressed. Already a top 5 Winston in multiple fields in week 1.
And the stars are really aligning for the San Francisco Shock, because you start out with Dante. Dante's maybe not the best Tracer player in the league when the league starts out, and you think, okay, there's going to be a vast gulf between him and Sinatra. At least that's what it looked like initially. However, Dante got so much better over the course of stage 1 and stage 2 that the difference is negligible. However, Dante also plays the Sombra. Where are we now? Tracer, Sombra together, incredibly dominant DPS pairing, and hey, you've got Sinatra and Dante to play this, and it's just a perfect meta at the perfect time for the Shock.
It is a perfect storm, because like a lot of other teams, they had good Sombra players, but the issue is they're usually Initially, it's one of their supports that was switching off of a support to play Sombra with the old way she was played. Now you want a DPS who's as good as that Sombra. And I love the Shock as a team just because they got a little bit of attitude, right? You know, they're not afraid to talk some smack, throw down with some teams. Like, I love to see that stuff. Like when Sinatra, like when they lose and he's tweeting, oh man, that should have been 4-0. Like that's that attitude that I like. Like you come into these games with a little bit of a mean streak.
You live by the sword and you die by that same sword. So as long as you're prepared to do that, that's fine by me. But it's so funny. We spent all of stage 1 and 2 talking about how Dante had to secure his spot because, you know, Sinatra was looming and the new Tracer was going to come in. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, well, actually he secured his spot in the team by being very good at both of those heroes now. When it's more Baby Bay that gets rotated in as a specialist.
Yeah, we haven't even seen Architect yet.
Yeah, I was going to say they still have Architect who's coming on in, which that'll be crazy once he comes into the lineup. And it's a new stage, and it was interesting to see how the patch made changes and the map pool affected the hero picks league-wide. You see D.Va up there at 93%. Doesn't surprise anybody. I think Mercy up at 76%. Probably surprises a lot of people. Genji falls all the way down to 16%. You see Sombra coming in, they're taking his spot.
Right, crucially, more Mercy here than in stage 2. So we saw a bit of a throwback to, you know, stage 1. Mercy obviously not as powerful as she was in that period, but now coming back, good to see Neptuno on it as well. And we're seeing a couple of different things thrown in. We've even seen Moira on some particular maps, but with the Widowmaker's prevalence, Mercy still seems to be the go-to to back her up.
Yeah, and a lot of this, I think, wasn't even the patch. It's really the maps. When we look at these hero pools, it's, again, a map pool that we're going to see a lot of Widowmaker and Junkrat on. I also think Genji will be going back up and Sombra going down in terms of play. I do think teams have been overemphasizing Sombra, and the teams that are great at Tracer Genji dive will make a return to that style the deeper we go in stage 3.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing a lot of Mercy play when Sombra is in play because obviously Lucio uses sound barrier, completely gets negated by that EMP. Mercy, it's a little bit easier to hide from that, right? You come out with Valkyrie, you get the chain healing, keep everybody up while that EMP is active. Let's move on, though. It's time for the biggest plays from week 1. This is Didn't See That Coming. It's going to be Pine. He was back in action, returns to form from McCree on a 4K on Ilios. It was good to see Pine back in action. Didn't get any play during stage 2. I think you'll definitely see him get some play here in stage 3. The map pool definitely favors his play.
Yeah, it's just so flashy to watch him. It's a joy to watch. So, but speaking of the NYXL, it is Sebilby as well, who's going to get one of the best pulse bombs we saw last week. A nice 3K, drops it with a flick of the wrist onto Bird Ring, and he'll grab Bedosian and Gesture at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever heard Hex get so squeaky. Sounded like Jason Kaplan on a long day, but check this next one out. Bedosian. This is quite funny. So this is how you recover from a Tracer hitting your backline. Pulse bomb dropped on the ground, Bedosian scoops it up, gets taken down, rezzed, and then look what he does.
Oh, no.
Jake's getting pretty used to getting smacked by Zenyatas, of course, but that one was a specifically nasty one.
This next one from the Houston Outlaws as well. It's going to be Muma. He baits the D.Va, then jumps down and body blocks Nuss's Mercy. I love watching Muma and Cool Matt play together. Just such great chemistry. You see the D.Va goes on up. Muma jumps right around, able to body block Nuss. He's trying to come through. It's an awesome play.
Yeah, that's just fantastic. And carrying on with the Outlaws, we see a play with Cool Matt as we have Blizzard World in the stage, and he is going to go up high and get some point clear here. 2 kills, Gesture and Nuss on point B.
Also forcing the translocate out of Profit there after the EMP had been used. So the opportunity to follow up on that EMP kind of been taken away. But here we go, though. Sire player. This is an amazing flank. This really gave the Mayhem the map. What an impact this guy's having on this team already. I love to see it.
Pine, is that you?
Yep. Yeah, it's like, it's not as cool as that Pine Junkertown clip, but it's as effective, right? I mean, I guess it kind of take away some of the craziness of it, but the Saya player's been great for the Mayhem thus far. It's gonna be Fisher camping the translocator to kill Sombra, burst the shock. You saw some of Fisher's tweets after the match. He was like, Dante, please stop hacking me to get hacked over and over again. This time doesn't have to worry about that.
It's Unreal Tournament all over again, ladies and gentlemen.
No telefragging, though. Unfortunately, unlucky.
That'd be pretty dope, though.
Yeah, Sinatra's been new in the past few weeks, and he's also going to pick up a pulse bomb here. He is going to get stunned, though, and as you see, he may hit that one, but you know how to take out the Tracer at the same time. Just walk straight into her.
I like that. Silk Thread knew he was done, and he at least gets himself a trade out. Dante, this is great.
Yo,
especially given who it was against. Yeah. Look how far forward the Seoul Dynasty are pushed. Look at the top of the screen. Dante gets it over the line. Love it.
Dude, my favorite part is Hexus saying, like, wow, this forward defense is working great. It's like a picture-in-picture with Dante backcapping. Incredible.
I love how after that they went to the camera shot, the guys from Seoul, and they just all smiled, laughing. Toby from Seoul Dynasty. He hides from Dante's EMP, saves the team with the sound barrier. That's kind of the trade-off, right? If you can get that EMP out, then use sound barrier, it's a good look. You use that sound barrier earlier, gets negated by that EMP.
I mean, Toby is still a fantastic Lucio player, even if this team overall is struggling. Munchkin, though, here's a Reaper play. We don't see this too often, but we saw it twice on that map. Yeah, without the nano boost, I guess.
Yo, bring back speed with the nano boost.
It's like Overwatch Open, APAC, all the good stuff, bro. Man, we missed that. The Beyblade. Good moment there. Didn't see that coming, no. Some big moments here from week 1 at least, and there's at least 4 more weeks of awesomeness. Hopefully no Reaper nano boosting, though. I can really get...
No, I want that back.
Yeah, bring it back.
No, as we talked about, though, the Valiant. The Valiant looked like a completely new team in Stage 3. Here's what they had to say about their decision to overhaul the roster. Big changes here and getting back on track to winning.
This squad completely changing up their lineup. They looked pretty strong in Stage 1.
And Valiant will win the battle for Los Angeles.
Started to fade in Stage 2.
Oh, the Valiant weren't able to get to the payload in time.
Between Stage 2 and Stage 3, making some big moves.
일단은 한국에 있을 때부터 좀 봐왔는데 선수단을 개편을 시켜야 좀 미래지향적으로 앞으로 나갈 수 있을 것 같아서.
That will be yet another map win for LA Valiant.
엉코 선수는 카리브 선수랑 같은 포지션에 있었고 잘 하던 선수였는데 달라스를 이제 본인이 원하기도 했고 실크 스레드 같은 경우에는 이제 어질리티 선수와 경쟁을 시킬 수 있는 선수를 저는 원했고 트레이드를 결정을 하게 됐습니다.
Here is the new man though. Space, shot caller, great mind.
I've been sitting Stage 1 and 2 out on the sidelines because of the age limit. My playtime came up, and now we're here.
Space walking in with the whole hog, goes for the hook.
예전부터 스페이스는 MB 선수가 만약에 나가게 되더라도 이 친구로 대체가 무조건 가능하겠다고 판단을 하고 있었고요. 근데 그 판단에 맞는 것 같아서 좀 스페이스한테 좀 많이 고마워하고 있습니다.
Space making his presence felt in a big way.
Space had been sitting on the bench waiting until he turned 18, so he was very aware of the strategies and the way they wanted to play the game. So essentially it just came about slotting me in.
This Valiant squad, since adding Cust into the lineup, just looking so brutal.
코스타 항상 열심히 분위기를 좋게 해주고요. 해줄 수 있는 모든 거를 해주는 선수라고 생각해서 되게 괜찮습니다.
LA Valiant totally on fire in their first match. That is a 4-0 over Seoul Dynasty.
Right now it's, you know, we're sort of in that honeymoon period where everything's sort of going well for us. Moving forward, we're really looking to just sort of find our feet of like how we want to play the game.
And that's a big win, 2-0 in the first week for the new look Valiant.
Pretty happy with the team so far, you know, beating Seoul and then beating Dragons, so definitely a good start and looking forward to the future.
I mentioned before we didn't see as much Genji this week, but of the Genjis we did see, it was the Valiant's Agilities who slayed it. You can see these numbers, absolutely out of his mind. We know he's one of the best Genji players in the league. It's just how can he adjust to some of those other heroes he's going to need to play?
Yeah, and the team's owner, CEO, Noah Winston, has spoken to us and spoken publicly and said that one of the things that they really wanted to do was focus more of their coaching resources on Agilities. And so he's been out of the roster while Kareev was playing more of those DPS roles. But now he's coming back after having a few weeks of that very focused coaching attention. He's looking great.
Yeah, big shout out to Noah as well. He invited us out for a chance to sit down and just chat about how we put the team together and stuff like that. So radical transparency.
Whoa!
Love to see it. So
sometimes,
you probably
yeah. They're learning. They're learning.
It's radical, one way or another, bros. So you probably see what's happening here. You probably see what's happening here. I've got the remote control now. Our head's on sticks, and Monty is holding some as well. It's time for emote control, guys. Let's just get straight into this one. This is great, actually. Raucus, this is from his Twitter. He's in an Uber next to Link series.
What the? This is just a failure. Like, Why wouldn't you invite or try and share an Uber with your teammates? I know I try and share Uber with all my colleagues, right, Uber?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to laugh at this because I saw Raucus when I was at Starbucks the other day, and I asked him if he wanted to ride to the arena. Like, he could have jumped in Link's Uber, but he didn't. He rides a skateboard. Yes, I actually forgot the word for skateboard there for a second.
Yeah, he has a remote for it, right? And he drives it around. That's great. All right, let's check out our next one here. Now, I wonder, Monty, you might have some history on these two in the past or something, but I mean, there's some venom in this play from Joe.
I just really like, Jonak's attitude here because he's going to get him again. This is just total domination. And then, of course, give him some attitude right there. I am going to give this one the absolute MLG bone face. So much excitement. You love to see plays with this much attitude.
Oh, I'm going bone face as well. I'm actually a little upset he didn't shoot the guy's body a little bit longer. Where I come from, the Call of Duty world, you just keep shooting the body until you die. If I was Jonak, I would have just stood there, kept firing orbs.
I feel like it has diminishing returns on impact after the first bullet.
Nah, it doesn't.
All right, here's the entrance. You guys probably saw it from this week, but the Fusion literally got a marching band to work on Snillo's walkout game. The meme finally comes to its epic conclusion here. Big shout out to Tucker BLT over at Philadelphia Fusion for making this happen. Love to see it.
This is so juicy. I mean, the meme game here in Overwatch League is reaching such a zenith. I'm using the Raucus Booty. It's another fantastic meme that's been embraced by the community. But going from making fun of the Valiant to then delivering on saying his walkout game was garbage and then helping him with it is just like the full circle of Philadelphia is just amazing.
I went with the GB what face. I love this. I was thoroughly confused when I stepped into the caster room and I saw there was a marching band in there. Snillo's in a hoodie. I'm wondering if Snillo's even seen Rocky, can even tell you anything about Rocky, but I thought it was awesome. They created a little bit of a meme after the in-and-out thing. They delivered on the payoff.
We're chilling with the band before they come out on stage. They're like, we don't really know what this is about, but
they had no idea what they were here doing.
They played like a not quite a copy of the song. That's great. Here's Gapsy. Simple geometry, by the way. This is how we get to set up centimeter.
He copied this, though.
Yeah, this is actually from Flash, the famous StarCraft Brood War player, who was famous for actually measuring out with a ruler. So this is something to recreate the perfect environment. I don't know what I'm going to give this one. I'm panicking.
I already know.
I'm giving it this one because I actually really appreciate this, but this is definitely something that Korean pros, particularly probably the best StarCraft player of all time, have been doing.
Yeah, I saw a thing a few weeks ago. There's a fighting game player who does this as well, where he actually puts it to his chin to the monitor to see actually how far away or how close he is. I laugh at this, but I'm one of those people who freaks out as well, where like I play bad and I'm like, oh, my monitor must be too far away or my keyboard's not in the right spot, so I get it.
And we can debate whether or not this is actually effective in terms of recreating that environment, but I think psychologically it's a ritual to get yourself in the mode to play at the very least, and I think it can work.
What's next? He's going to get out of a 747 when he arrives at the arena? A big GSL entrance? Who knows? Let's move along though here. Fisher, Primal Rage comes out, and the rest is just...
my man!
Mistakes were made. This is just hilarious. Sometimes, you just misinterpret the amount of room you have left on the map. It happens. As a Winston player, I sympathize.
Dude, Fisher's made so many good plays. Like, it's bound to happen, right? I mean, I can't kind of get on the guy too much. He's been such a sick player for the Gladiators. That's pretty funny.
All right, here's the last and the best. The one, the only, the Brenji play. Check this guy.
This is the worst Dragon Blade of all time.
Bren is a shocking Overwatch player.
Bro.
He gets he dashes twice.
What are you doing, mate? And he spent so much time talking trash about it.
I have to think that because he owns it by dancing at the end, so it is a tongue-in-cheek play here. I love it.
He had to own it, didn't he?
It's horrifying. I had played with Brent a decent amount, and he always plays Genji, and he forces me to play other things, and this is the type of play I get. It's upsetting.
I want my single shot for this one. When Brent Dragon Blades, by the way, and I sit near him in the room and watch him play, I'll wait till the camera's on, because this is funny. He looks like he has rigor mortis. Like, he sits there, he gets all stiff, and he's like trying to Dragon Blade. He's doing this, like, these shoulders and all.
These analysts, they were always like, oh, yeah, let's get that analyst versus casters game going. And then they actually started watching each other play. They don't mention that anymore.
They've been very quiet about that one.
They don't want to play no more.
We'll continue to be now. Bren, You suck, bro.
All right, enough about Brett. That's very cruel.
No, that's the nice way.
All right.
We're the San Francisco Shock here.
Let's talk about somebody who's disappointing besides Bren, which is the London Spitfire, because they started stage 3, 0, and 2. They knew they'd have a tough time with the NYXL in week 1, but they also lost to Houston again. The Outlaws have now defeated London 3 times in the regular season, which means that is half of all of London's losses. And I think we can say this is now officially a rivalry.
휴스턴이랑 상대 전적이 3대 1인데 그 정도로 휴스턴한테 뭔가 경기를 할 때 많이 운이 안 좋게 지는 것 같아요.
We got the London Spitfire, a juggernaut squad that seems to always be in the top 3. They're matching up against the Houston Outlaws, who has given them trouble.
Well, they're green for a reason. They might just be kryptonite.
Radioactive.
The first map of the stage is always a big question mark, I think.
There's not as defined a meta yet, so people are running different things, they're swapping in different ways.
팀마다 각자 하는 플레이 스타일이 다른데, 그러니까 이제 휴스턴이라는 팀을 상대하면서 느낀 거는 이제 꼭 정해진 대로 하지 않는다. 그러니까 이제
Playing cat and mouse with Linkser, and the mouse is winning.
그러니까 예상치 못한 플레이라고 무조건 좋은 건 아닌데 좀 뭔가 그냥 뭔가 변칙적인 플레이를 많이 하는 것 같아요.
That could turn it around.
They struggle against Junkrat.
Take over on the Junkrat, adding a lot of damage.
우리가 정크렛을 잘 당하는 건지 상대 정크렛을 하는 선수가 잘하는 건지 모르겠는데 일단
There's a Riptire kill onto the tank. That's what you need to push through.
We're such different teams, we play such unique, different styles, so it puts them in a spot where if they want to beat us, they're gonna have to do things they're not comfortable doing.
Be very challenging for London to take this point.
If you want to play dive in a desperate situation, Houston probably isn't the team you want to try to play it into.
They're in the situation where they are very pressured, they need to get to point to just stop the game from ending. So there's just these 2 ultimates that they really do not want to be pushing into, and at the same time, somebody has to touch point or they lose.
He wants to hit the Riptire, but he's not gonna find it this time.
Both supports.
Play was basically for Muma to distract the diva and our tanks to distract their tank, so I had the perfect opportunity to just triple blink in and try to go for the sticky.
For a team that's been so good at it, oh, the stick onto Benotion gets 2! Murdering, are you kidding me? That is it, Houston Outlaws take down the London Spitfire for the 3rd time. Talk about kryptonite, I smell a rivalry here.
They're an incredibly talented team, so if we can take a win off them, I'm really proud of the team.
휴스턴 팀이라는 라이벌 덕분에 저희 팀이 성장할 수 있는 계기가 되지 않을까 싶어요.
We test ourselves against each other. It's just a really good Overwatch, I think.
So we talk about Houston's Tracer woes quite a bit. So it's worth pointing out that Linkser really dominated Profit on Tracer in their week 1 match. A player who said in the past, he's like, I haven't been a Tracer on top teams. I don't really know if it's the world for me. Am I comfortable in that position or not? This is an excellent performance from Linkser.
And they also, you heard Houston, I believe, mention it during the video. London having to deal with some compositional changes coming into the stages. Profit played a lot of Genji in stage 2, and Birdring played a ton of Tracer. Now that you see more Widowmaker in play, that's going to be Birdring's role, and you still want that Tracer. So Profit now is going to have to go back to Tracer, which kind of makes that matchup pretty fair, right? If both of those players are kind of going over to that hero.
Yeah, I'm also curious what both of these teams, because a lot of the teams, including both Houston and London, were taking time off or in other parts of the country / world during the break. So a lot of these teams are coming in a little bit more raw in terms of practice. And we have a new map in this pool, Blizzard World, that none of these guys have played professionally before. So I think we'll see things stabilize later on. It's still a bit up in the air because that London-Houston match was sloppy overall.
Yeah, so. I mean, they said it was great Overwatch. In the interview, I think I'd say it was. It's pretty
I disagree.
Yeah, but without trying to dump on the teams and their play, and especially Blizzard World teams are still getting it figured out. But let's take a breath now, guys. We're nearly done. But before we go, let's leave the good people at home with a little hindsight. Mr. X, you can start us off this time. How about that?
Yeah, I'll start us off. I usually kind of go second or last, but today I'll start us off, and it's going to be the stage playoffs for me. The changes are great. They move it to Sunday, obviously, for stage 2. I think that's a big win for, obviously, all of us, all of the teams. Teams having to, play those extra matches on Saturday wasn't great. Didn't see the best Overwatch. They move it to Sunday, even better. Now we're going to add another team into the mix, so 4 teams will make the stage playoffs. The first team can, pick out of the other 3 teams which one they want to face. It'll be a lot of a lot of mind games, a lot of strategy comes into play. I think it's great that we get to see more high-level Overwatch.
That's it. First, we copy the Apex observing. And then we got the Apex final seedings. Okay, so my point is going to be that perhaps Tvik's spot on the DPS rotation for the Florida Mayhem maybe shouldn't be super solidified now. Sire players come in, and his Widowmaker is clearly one of the best in the league. Logix is consistently top 5 Tracer. Sire player also was an excellent Tracer on Meta Athena in the past. He could fill that role. Tvik, now his sort of what he brings to the team might become a little bit more narrower there. Maybe even just the Genji, maybe Sombra thrown in there. I think going forward, the ideal DPS rotation might be to see, you know, for the time being at least, Tvik take a back seat. I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm not trying to come at you, bro. I'm just saying Florida's getting better, and Sire player needs to be in that rotation a lot more.
All right, and in hindsight, I think that Uber looks much better when he actually shaves before coming on Watchpoint. I learned that this week, so anyway.
You can't do your boy like that. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Clean yourself up, son. All right, on to the serious stuff. It is, I think, more important than ever. Now that we're in Stage 3, we're finally seeing repeats of maps from Stage 1 and Stage 2. That means we're seeing similar strategies. That means that teams really have to know how to play against certain compositions and alter on the fly even more quickly than they did previously. The key to this oftentimes is having a supremely flexible DPS player so you can get a lot of different looks in, whether you're playing a poke comp with Widow or Soldier Tracer, or you're playing a dive with, of course, the Genji and the Tracer together. It's important to have this flexibility, which is why players like Libero on the NYXL are at such a premium right now, because it allows you to adjust in-game, in the map, without swapping out players and really telegraphing what you're doing. So I think successful teams from here on out are going to be able to have to field one of these very flexible DPS players.
I don't know about you, Matt, but all I heard was the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell over and over and over again. I know I used to feel with Jake in the room now. Before we go, though, there was one omission from our remote control segment earlier. It was us trying to start the show today.
Great to be back.
Welcome to...
It's an earthquake.
That's what happens, of course, when, you know, not everyone's quite ready.
Oh, I got an earthquake in here.
Big love to our Steadicam gentlemen who are operating that one. It takes a lot. You've got to put a harness on and everything else. So, but we are back. We got the show done. Somehow in one piece. We'll see if that remains to be the case afterwards. But that does it for MLG's Watchpoint. Check out our Watchpoint preview show on Tuesday at 11 p.m. Eastern Time or 8 p.m. Pacific Time on OverwatchLeague.com or on the Overwatch League app. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in week 2.